Lynn Hughes and Amy Mastin are running for family court. Department M, correct?
Correct.
Department M. I've had the pleasure doing the election to interview both of them during the primary. And my first take is we are fortunate in this race. We have two very good candidates. Now's the time to decide who is the best. And they just finished a Review Journal debate. Well, this is not the Review Journal, and it's really not a debate. It's let's get to know the candidates. Let's understand their point of views. Let them tell us a little bit about themselves. So I'm going to start off by letting the candidates take 2 minutes, tell them a little bit what they want to know or what you want them to know, the Black community to know about you. So we're going to start off and go ladies first. Ms. Amy, you are on.
Okay, thank you. It's Amy Mastin, and I'm running for Family Court Department M. I appreciate this opportunity, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity of your viewers and the time that they're taking to listen to Lynn and I today. My training and my vast judicial experience make me the best candidate for Family Court Department M. For the past 7 years, I've been working as a family court hearing master. A hearing master is an appointed judicial officer. The district court judges selected me to hear domestic violence cases. Over 7 years, I've also heard guardianship cases. I've heard discovery disputes, and I currently hear child support cases. I, as a hearing master, do the job of a judge, but I do it under the supervision of the family court presiding judge. I've essentially been an apprentice judge for 7 years, doing the job that I'm asking to be elected to. Prior to being an appointed hearing master, I maintained a private practice for more than 10 years. And I heard cases or maintained a private practice that was devoted, exclusively to family court cases. All I handled were cases that were heard in the family court: divorces, custody cases, guardianships. I was one of a handful of attorneys on a list that was given to foster parents who were ready to finalize the adoption of their foster children. Prior to maintaining my private practice, I was a deputy district attorney in the Child Welfare Division prosecuting civil child abuse and neglect cases. My entire 24-year career has been devoted to public service and to families, and I'm running for family court as an extension of that commitment. I appreciate it. I'm Amy Mastin, Family Court Department M.
My name is Lynn Hughes, and I'm also running, obviously, for Family Court Department M. I have been a Las Vegas resident for most of my life. We moved here when I was very young, and I grew up here going through grade school on up through UNLV. I attended Western High School, graduated in 1987, and my parents still live in that house that I grew up in over there. I have enjoyed my time in Las Vegas. I remember back when it was a considerably smaller town. The outside of town, Rainbow, was the western edge of town at the time we moved here. I have been practicing law in Las Vegas for 23 years, since 1997 when I passed the bar. And I have made my practice exclusively in family law, in guardianship, and in probate and estate planning. As a matter of fact, the Department M is currently limited to those areas of practice. It's a guardianship court that handles some probate, and Judge Potter also used to do family law. It might not continue that way, but that is currently its practice, and I have a great deal of experience in those areas. So I am capable of stepping into those areas on day one. I have raised my children here. This is my home. Matter of fact, my youngest just graduated from high school. For other information, I was appointed to the Nevada Permanent Guardianship Commission to help correct the issues that deal with guardianship. The courts in this state trying to make new rules and procedures so that the guardianship courts are all uniform throughout the state and that the people are protected from any kind of abuse or overreaching. I'm also an active family court settlement master here. I help resolve cases, mediate them, and get them solved before they actually have to spend a lot of time litigating the case itself. If they would like to have that, I am one of the volunteers that helps to get those cases resolved. I've also been a hearing master pro tem in the Clark County courts and in the family courts for 18 years, acting as a substitute judge for when those individuals need to take a vacation or perform their legal education, or even when they had to go to a convention. I performed that in guardianship, in abuse neglect, in mental health or civil commitment court, as well as traffic and small claims. So I have 18 years of the experience being able to run a courtroom and handle litigants and get a case moved forward to resolution. I believe I'm the best candidate for Department M, and I ask you to choose Lynn Hughes for Family Court Judge.
Thank you both, Lynn and Amy, for the introductions. Like I said, this is not the review journal, so we've got some questions for you. The first one is, just from your observations, both of you all have some experience in the family courts and in the system as we know it here. Coming in as a judge, what do you think are the biggest opportunities to see better results and better customer satisfaction, being obviously the people that come into court and have to deal with these types of issues? Lynn, you get to go first on this.
Wow. Personal satisfaction from family court? I'm not sure that's possible. Family court is a place where obviously when you're coming there, your life is pretty much ruined before you come into the courthouse. The family is coming apart for whatever reason, and the emotions are there and raw and not possible. You know, having some individual be satisfied, I don't know, that's a rare thing to have a satisfactory conclusion to a family law case. A judge oversees the division of a family, of the division of assets, arguments over the child, or the garden hose. I had a case where they would not settle a case because each party wanted a garden hose. And it just gets ridiculous sometimes with the emotions that obviously can be stirred up in a family court. I will say that I think family court is doing well to improve itself. We are getting 6 new family court judges with this election, and so the caseload, I believe, is going to be reduced for the judges. It'll make that a little bit faster, a little bit easier for a judge to get a case resolved, and anytime you can get past the case and get on with life, get beyond the family court situation, you're going to have a better existence. So I do believe family court is improving itself.
Okay. Thank you very much. Amy, give me your opinions on the same question.
I think the question includes the answer to an extent, Brian. You mentioned customer satisfaction, and I think just identifying the people who come there as our customers and treating them as people who should reasonably have an expectation to be treated as customers, people who have a need, or people who are there and should expect to be treated and be given a service, I think is a good starting point for all of us down there. I think it's something that the clerk's office has been working on, treating the people who come to the clerk's office as customers, asking the question, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Eliciting from people what they need, recognizing that the people who come there have needs, and that our job down there is to fulfill their needs. I think that's an important thing to recognize. They are our customers. We are there for them. And so I think that's a good starting point. And I think framing the family court around that concept is something that the family court has honestly been working towards. Again, that's been a starting point for the clerk's office recently. It's something that I personally do in my court. It's something that I do on recently, the telephonic hearings that I have. I end every hearing with the question, is there something else I can do for you? Have I answered all your questions? I think everybody should walk away from a hearing, every appearance they have in front of a judge, feeling like they had an opportunity to ask the court for what they need. They won't always get it, but they should at least feel like they had the opportunity to ask and were heard. So I think that's a huge part of customer satisfaction.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Next question, we're going to start first with Amy. And
Sure.
This is the independent Black voters. And obviously, not only are we concerned about the judges and their ability to improve the court so there's balanced justice, but we also want to know your opinions. We are in a world right now that is in disarray. We have a lot of issues from systemic racism down to unbalanced justice. And we'll start off, and Amy, let you go first. Tell me what your thoughts are about what's going on and what we need to do as a people, i.e. America, to come together to address these issues. Just give us your overall thoughts from the perspective of how you think that the Black community feels and needs today.
Okay, so there's Amy Mastin, the human being, and then there's Amy Mastin, the judicial officer, and Amy Mastin, the judicial candidate. And those two people, those two sides of me have a different answer. And that's out of necessity, not because those two people think differently, but I'm not allowed to have an opinion that sees color or views people differently because of their color, their race, their religion, their creed, their sexual orientation. And that's part of my training as a judicial officer. I work very hard to achieve that and to live it and practice it every day in court. As a human being, I'm profoundly moved by what's happening in our society. I certainly believe that it's time, long overdue. The irony in, maybe I'll make a football analogy because I'm a huge 49ers fan. I was a huge Colin Kaepernick fan. I think the ostracization of him was a tragedy. I felt that back last year when it originally happened, or 2 years ago now when it first happened. So I support the movement and the recognition of the inequities in our country on a social level, on an economic level, on a justice level. All of that I recognize, and and I support the systemic changes that need to take place. As a judicial officer, I can support the systemic changes in the justice system that need to take place to equalize those inequities. As a human being, I stand with the Black Lives Matter movement and support what needs to be done to equalize those inequities. But I do want to make it clear that I recognize there's still a responsibility on my part to be a neutral fact finder and a neutral person who dispels justice on a daily basis. And I work hard to do that. And we don't have juries in family court. I am the finder of fact, so it's even more important than ever that I be able to be a neutral person. And that's the other part of me. And so I maintain both. But I think what's happening in society is beautiful, and it's long overdue.
Okay. Thank you very much for your response. Okay, Lynn, your opinion.
Thank you. As a judicial officer, an individual has to be, or a judge has to be, completely immune. Cannot have a bias or a prejudice going one way, which is a difficult thing. I have prejudices, and I know that. I prefer Coke over Pepsi. For hot rides, I prefer a Camaro over a Mustang. I have intrinsic preferences that I have had growing up and have been part of me throughout my life. And knowing that, I have to be able to obviously guard against anything that might cause me to favor somebody or another individual. And I have paid close attention when I am making a ruling or when I am listening even to the evidence to understand individuals that come before the court and present their case. They have to be able to be heard and understood and treated fairly in all aspects, whether it be socioeconomic, race, whatever the differences are. My personal prejudices cannot enter in and be part of that. And so it is something that a judge has to be aware of throughout their entire career. As far as the needs and the events going on in society right now, it's crazy, everything that's going on. I do believe that every individual needs to be treated with respect, needs to be treated fairly, honestly, and I am not sure where this collision is going. We have the right side and the left side who are battling politically in all aspects and on everything. And what I would hope to see soon, in order to keep violence down, in order to solve some problems, is some kind of meeting. I don't think we're going to have a meeting of the minds, but there has to be something where we can advance and make those changes necessary to help individuals. I know we're going to have a special session that's going to talk about changes that might happen to police procedures. What can we do to help quell things? I don't think we're going back to normal. I don't know what normal is going to be in the future, whether it be COVID or race relations, but things have to begin to heal and be part of the nation again, one way or another. I really hope we can heal. I don't want my kids to face the trouble and angst and things that are going on right now. I want to be able to try and solve them some way.
Okay. Not the review journal, and our questions are different purposely. I'm gonna ask an interesting question because this is one that I throw around a lot. This is a great question for both of you all for a lot of reasons. A lot of people use today what they call identity politics. I mean, let's face it, we have women. I have some women in my family who said, I'm just gonna vote for the woman. We have men who are, I'm just gonna vote for the men. We have so much of the identity politics. As a matter of fact, Lynn, we had discussions that it might have helped you that your name being Lynn, that people did not know who you might be from an identity issue. What are you all's opinions of identity politics and just your thoughts overall? Lynn, you get to go first on that. Take it off.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I touched the wrong thing there. Okay. Identity politics is the way, I think it's a starting position. You have to identify yourself in one way or another. And having, what I don't want to see is it become the stereotype of I'm a right-wing person or I'm a black left-wing person or whatever those identity politics are. I don't want that to be the first thing I see, and therefore that's how you're treated. The identity politics are going to be part of society forever. I think we are all going to be identifying ourselves through those initial ideas and what we see and what we say. But again, I think we have to find a way to. You have used the term. I am my brother's keeper. And I think that goes along with the first and great commandment, which is to love our neighbor. Actually, that's the second great commandment, sorry. Love our neighbor, and we have to get together and find a way to get past, I guess, those identity politics. I don't want that to be the only step. It's a good first step. It helps us to understand each other, but that can't be where we stop. We have to go beyond that, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lynn. Now, Amy, give me your thoughts.
It's an interesting question, Brian. You're right. And honestly, not something that I've ever really put a lot of thought into until you asked it. I hadn't really thought about the existence of it, but it does exist. You're right. I hear it all the time. I guess I'll respond with an observation of my own, and that is when I moved here 24 years ago, this was a town that was still very much a good old boy network. I don't think that surprises anybody. We had 2 female judges. One was on her way of being booted out. And it took another 6 years past that before there was a shift and women started regularly being elected to the bench. And now I don't know if it's a virtue or by virtue of these identity politics that you're referring to, but now I think women are regularly elected to the bench. As I said, I think I hear often that people will vote for the female on the ballot. Like you said to Lynn, it may be to his advantage. And, but in spite of that, we have never had a judge of color on the family court bench, in spite of the makeup of our city's population. And so I don't know where the disconnect of that is. I don't know if that speaks to who's identifying, I guess, with the candidates, or if it's more a function of the candidates who are running. I think when you and I initially talked, we talked about the fact that there aren't the candidates running that really represent the racial diversity of our city. And so maybe if there were the candidates available, then the identity politics would get those people into office. I'm not sure. So I am more having a discussion or a debate with you because I don't know how to answer that question. But that's my observation. There was this willingness to vote women into office, but we still don't have some racial diversity that should be there to be truly representative of what our community looks like. I hope that's forthcoming. I don't know what else to say on the topic.
Thank you, because there's no wrong answer on that question. That's just one I find interesting, because identity politics, and I'll say as a black man, we're 13, well, black the community is roughly 13%. And black men are probably, if you break it down, 6% or less. We lose on identity politics every time. Yeah. Because we don't have a specific group that identifies us. We have to deal with merits. And unfortunately, identity politics and sometimes is the reason that the best candidates, i.e. people who look like me, have a difficult time coming in. So there's no answer. I just wanted to ask that opinion on there. And it's something hopefully we'll start thinking about. The next question will go to you, Amy, first. I appreciate you coming out here for the independent black voters. One of you all will win. First question is, I'm asking you a part question. What have you done in the past that has been, what have you done with the black community as far as outreach to the black community, participation in the black community up to now? Excuse me, should you win or even not win, what are your plans and goals in the future to be a little bit more engaged into the black community? Because you will not understand our issues, our values, our beliefs, and a lot of the issues we deal with, i.e. systemic racism, if you are not a part of our community. And I give a good example. A sitting judge, Judge Eric Johnson, comes to the Shepherd's Breakfast every month. He invites people into his chambers. He has a very open dialogue with many of the leaders in the community. So tell me what you've done in the past and tell me what you will do in the future via win, lose, or draw. Okay, and you get to go first on this one, Amy. So, Amy,
You asked me this question when we originally met, and I can honestly tell you that I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, Brian, because I'm not the sort of person who's going to pander and give you an answer just because it's the one you want to hear. I'm much too honest and frank for that. And I really can't say anything more than I did in our original discussion. Have I gone out of my way to put myself in a position where I'm immersed as part of the Black community? I can't say that I have. Have I gone out of my way to research and understand the Black Lives Matter movement? I have. That's something, as I stated, that I think is important. It's long overdue. It's something that I educate my children about. It's something that I've discussed with my children about for years before the Black Lives Matter movement had a name. So cerebrally, it's something that I spend a lot of time on. It's something that I live. Equality is something that I live. I think that is what matters. It's who I am as a human being. That's just my life. So can I point to something specific where I'm in a group of Black people and I'm the only white person or one of many white people? No, I can't. But is it part of my consideration when I'm looking at whether I'm going to frequent a business or socialize or do outreach? Yes, if there's a need to do outreach to a Black business or a Black nonprofit, I will do that. A Black, I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for a specific word. If there's, I can't think of the word. I'm sorry. If there's a need, I will do that. I will outreach there. But aside from that, I can't identify something for you. And obviously I'm frustrated by that. I think you hear that in my voice. I support the movement. It's part of who I am. It's part of how I've raised my children. It's part of what I will continue to do. I confront it every day in my courtroom by leveling the playing field as best as I can and as best as appropriate.
Okay. Thank you for your honest response. Okay, Lynn, you're up.
My experience would have to start in my youth. I went to Western High School. I went to Hyde Park Middle School. And I did a lot of sports teams with individuals of all races in those areas. Boy Scouts. We had Boy Scout troops and jamborees and everything else where we would spend a lot of time together as youth doing all of those activities together. It has been, I have been involved in scouting for a very long time and assisting young men to grow and to improve themselves, whether Latino, Black, white, all races, and have enjoyed very much my time with all of them. Beyond that, I had my own business for a number of years running a law firm and had great success in working with Black-owned businesses, investigators, other things like that who performed services when I needed assistance. So I have spent a lot of time with individuals of other races, but I like Amy. It's not something where I go to activities or I'm a homebody. I tend to stay home, stay out of trouble. I enjoy time with my kids and my family, so I don't go out that much. And so I haven't been to the breakfast or Chamber of Commerce or other things like that. I guess that's my response.
Okay. I mean, and I thank both of y'all for being open and honest. There's no wrong answer, and I wanted you to be as open and honest as you could. So I think you all both were. So I thank you. Let me ask both of you all, Lynn, what are your long-term aspirations? Obviously, I see a goal here to come in as family court, but okay. Past that, where do you see yourself going, or what, have you even looked at that?
I'm going to turn that back on.
Okay.
Maybe. Okay. I have not looked beyond this step. I have at this time no aspirations to go to the Supreme Court or the appeals court. This is my goal. Is the next step is Department N, to get in there to be a guardianship judge or a family court judge and do that specific duty. I look to do that for 2 terms if possible. This is a 6-year term for this position on district court. My goal would be to probably serve 2 terms. After that, I'll figure out what it is. Of course, I have to win a second term after I win the first term. So I haven't thought beyond that, I guess. I haven't thought of aspirations of trying to go farther or do something more. I have been a family law attorney for 23 years, and I feel that this is the proper thing for me to do, is to go to this next step.
Okay. And you get that for me? Amy, same question.
This is my long-term. This has been my career trajectory, and this is what I plan on doing for the rest of my career.
Okay. So, thank you. So now, again, first I want to thank both of you all for being our guinea pigs in our test case. We appreciate you taking the time to do this. Because we believe that an educated voter who gets a chance to look at the 2 of you all will make an educated decision. We believe that we do not need voter suppression. We need voter participation. We need to have as many people voting, but being informed voters. And so I thank you all for coming out here and letting the black voters vet you. As I said, you're not the future. We do not vet, we do not interview, we do not question, we do not do our town halls like that. It is about this community, and that's what we're talking about. So we're coming to the end, and here's a big question for you all, and then I'm going to close it out. And I'm going to let you go first, Lynn. Why should our community vote for you? So you got a little time here to give us your spiel on why we should vote for you, and then Amy, you're next.
Okay. I have been, like I say, an attorney for a long time in this town. I grew up here. This is my home, and I have enjoyed serving the community and the people here. There's very few differences, I believe, between Miss Mastin and myself. We've both been practicing about the same number of years. We both had an office for about 8 to 10 years. We both had judicial experience. So in my mind, we've had a lot of the same conditions or a lot of the same characteristics. So I don't envy the voters on trying to choose between us. I think in our department, we have 2 very good candidates. I like Amy a lot. I just feel like I'm hopefully the better candidate for this particular seat. The only difference I really think that I can say between us is probably that while Amy has been a sitting judge for 7 years, she has been doing it as the family violence commissioner or hearing master, and is focused on that rather than on full-on family law, such as divorce or custody trials, those kind of things. But again, that's probably a minor difference between the 2 of us. So I believe that I will treat everybody fairly. That is my goal. That is my aspiration, and it will be my my mantra, to be able to say that when individuals come to my courtroom, they will have been treated fair. They'll be given an opportunity to say their piece, and I will issue a just decision in their case.
Okay. Thank you very much. Amy, you're up.
Thank you. And thank you for the kind words, Lynn. I do have a lot of respect for Lynn. We've been doing this for 6 months together now, and he knows that I don't have a bad thing to say about him. But the difference is that I've been doing this job for 7 years. I've been an apprentice judge, as I like to say. When you become judge, nobody tells you that you're doing the job wrong. When you start at the top, there's nobody above you to say, hey, you might want to try this. There's a better way to do what you're doing. When you start as a hearing master, an appointed judicial officer, there's plenty of people above you, the district court judges, who are quick to let you know that there's a better way to get the job done. There's a better way to make a decision, better way to render a decision, better way to handle a specific situation in court. So I've had mentoring of the district court judges, some of the best district court judges over the last 7 years, and have had on-the-job training. And that's the difference. It doesn't matter that it's been primarily in domestic violence. In fact, I would argue that domestic violence is the hardest job down in the district court. I've heard the most difficult cases with the most dangerous cases with the hardest outcomes over the last 7 years because I've been in domestic violence court. And if I can handle those cases, I can certainly handle any divorce case that comes before me. But aside from that, that's the primary difference. I've learned everything on the job and am ready to take the bench and do the job of a district court judge because I've learned that job over 7 years. I appreciate the opportunity, Brian. Thank you for introducing both Lynn and I to your audience and giving us an opportunity to engage with them. Thank you.
I echo that. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay. And in closing, I want to thank both of you all. You chose to come on and talk to the independent Black voters. That is very important. That speaks loudly about both of you. I am very fortunate in this race that there are two good candidates. That is not the case for everyone we're dealing with. You all both, I believe, exhibit a lot of the qualities needed to have good judges. And so what we will do here is use this information, send it out to the independent Black voters so that they can see, vet you, and they may have more questions for you. But again, this is important. We are at times like have never been seen before, at least in the last 40 to 60 years. We're in unprecedented times. We must come together. We must start to value each other's opinions, but more importantly, we have to be more inclusive. We must vote. Everyone should be allowed to vote that is an American citizen. But everyone who is an American citizen has the obligation to be an educated voter. I started off, and I'll say this, I do not ask judges what their party affiliation is. That is because we are the independent Black voters. We don't care what your party affiliation is. We care whether you are the right candidate for the Black community. We need people who understand that systemic racism is alive and well. And many of the issues that come to your courts are directly related to systemic racism, to social injustice, to wealth inequality. They all go together. You will not fix one without fixing the other. So I thank you all. Again, there's a chance we may have you back on a second time since you were first. But I thank you for taking the time and seeing the importance of coming and talking to the independent Black voters, because our vote is not free. Thank you very much. And thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah.